morning sun shines on the gleaming hide of a muscular ranch horse. The aroma of bacon and coffee drifts from the wood cook stove at a cow camp. Silver spurs jingle as the men and women of the West get set for another day in the saddle. From the heart of Canada's finest ranching country, this is the Spirit of the West with rancher and horse trainer Hugh McLennan and his collection of music, poetry, and conversations with the folks who live and work with horses and cattle in the Spirit of the West.
Spring is trying hard to get a foothold. The horses are nearly shed out. Calves are coming left and right, and I'm trying to get my roping arm limbered up to take in some brandings. And we concluded another highly successful Kamloops Cowboy Festival recently, where I caught up with one of the fastest rising stars of Western music, Ryan Fritz. And today you'll hear a few tracks from his great new album, Keeper of the West, and of course, more of his cowboy adventures.
I said, hang on a second, this phone went flying. And I went for a tour there and managed to stick it out, and then I had to find this phone.
And talking about cowboy adventures, Baxter Black has another good one.
Now, it takes a good horse to do what he had planned, and Alvin was well mounted.
Lots of interesting stuff this week on the Rangeland News, including a report on an up-and-coming young hockey star, and this.
Helping to keep the beef cattle prices from falling more than the expected 7%.
And a lot of us will identify, I think, with this week's piece of cowboy poetry.
So I saddled up old Buck, tied him to the trailer, went in and told the missus where I was off to and that I'd had it with that baler.
We will look at another classic Song of the West and the story behind it, and on the horse training file, a new problem has developed in what was a very nice horse to ride. His rider says I start riding and he'll throw his head wildly, tugging at the reins, and will not go where I ask him. Well, I don't think this is too hard to figure out. You'll find out what I suggest just a little later. And I'll visit with Ryan Fritz after Richard Martin leads us out the gate.
I've covered many a mile on horseback. I've seen many things. Coyotes running up the draw, and eagles on the wing. A newborn calf by its mother's side early in the spring. Yes, I've covered many a mile on horseback. I've seen many things. Some folks pay no attention to what goes on around. They're always in a hurry, running back to town. They really have no idea what beauty there is to see. It's the simple things of nature that sets a man's soul free. And I've covered many a mile on horseback. I've seen many things. Coyotes running up the draw, and eagles on the wing. Newborn calf by its mother's side early in the spring. I've covered many a mile on horseback. I've seen many things. Some folks can't remember what they saw today. It really makes no difference unless it's in their way. So take some time and look around as you travel down our roads. And if you go on horseback, it'll lighten up your load. There's nothing like being horseback, traveling across our lands, observing all the beauty given by God's hand. You will never miss a thing and appreciate it all. So take it nice and slow, my friend, and sit your saddle tall. I've covered many a mile on horseback, I've seen many things. Coyotes running up the draw, eagles on the wing. A newborn calf by its mother's side early in the spring. Yes, I've covered many a mile on horseback, I've seen many things. I've covered many a mile on horseback, I've seen many things.
Well, this guy has ridden many a mile on horseback, from the gang ranch to the big outfits of the Nicola Valley, and now his own operation in Saskatchewan, Ryan Fritz.
Oh, hey, Ryan, really good to see you again. Are you calving out there in Saskatchewan right now?
Well, we got a few just starting to trickle out, and my good wife's back home holding down the fort and watching things over while me and Hoss are out here playing. So.
Oh, man, so how's it going so far? You got no real problems? Or?
No. We've had, especially for our part of the country on the east side of Saskatchewan, we're typically winter till mid-April, and we had our thaw a week ago, so we got lots of bare ground, and things are looking good.
Yeah, been different this year, hasn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I got to say, I sure do enjoy Keeper of the West. That's your last two have just been terrific, and every song on there is really, really strong.
Well, I appreciate that, Hugh. Yeah, we just turned that out in January, and released it just in time for I went and played in Elko there.
Yeah, how did that go?
That was great. Yeah, it was. People really friendly down there, and just fit in nice. So.
Yeah, what are some things that sort of impressed you about the Elko thing? Things you'll remember, some of the folks you met, and that kind of stuff.
They're really sticking to the keeping the traditional part of the ranching and cowboy, to their material wise for the for the poets and musicians, and I like that. And they really did a good tribute to Ian Tyson, who wasn't able to make it.
Yeah, I know he wasn't able to.
Yeah. And Michael Martin Murphy stepped in for him there and did a nice show for him and paid tribute to the Canadians and what they, the connection, even though there's a border, like we're still.
Oh, yeah. Cowboys are cowboys. Doesn't matter whether you're in Nevada or BC or Saskatchewan.
That's right.
Or Alberta or Texas or wherever. One of your old cow bosses, Miles Kingdon, was up to our McLennan Ranch studio a couple of weeks ago, and boy, he told some bone-chilling stories of cold rides in the winter. Man, oh man, some days he was so hyperthermic he didn't know if he'd ever make it home.
Well, I remember at the gang ranch when I was working for him there, and it must have been 93 or so. It was about December, and Miles generally stayed in his own tent. He had a wall tent set up, and then the rest of us boys be in one of the shacks, and it had to be 35 below and wind blowing, and he kind of taps on the door and, "Fellers, mind if I bunk it here tonight?" Come in, and you're not sure about the cow boss coming in here when what's happening, and heck, he told stories all night, and it was entertaining.
Coming up, a track from Ryan's great new album, and he'll talk about the inspiration for the song when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. Veteran working cowboy, now a Saskatchewan rancher and fine singer and songwriter, Ryan Fritz is visiting this week.
Some of the songs on your new CD, let's just talk a little bit about maybe what inspired them. And I know you got one there about winter riding that's kind of neat.
Oh, yes. That was, wrote that a couple of years ago, and it must have been just coming into fall, and we listen to your show all the time. And I was sitting there, and you were talking about getting your horses sharp shod and padded up and ready to start the fall gathering, and I was sitting out there on the prairies of Saskatchewan and thinking of my years out here in BC and missing the fall work, and I just remember that first snow coming down, and that's when you can really get tracking and finding those cattle that you gather the main bunches, and then once you get a snow or two, it's a lot easier to find them strays.
Yeah, you really look for that first. You don't want too much. If you got 2 feet, it's kind of hard. Yeah, but if you got about 3 or 4 inches, then it's good tracking.
Just that nice little dusting there, and then you can really track them.
The first snow has fallen sweet, like icing I'd like to eat. Oh, I can't wait to leave this shack and go lay a set of tracks. There's cattle that I need to find. I've really just been killing time, waiting for the snow to tell me where to go.
Now it's time to ride from the mountains down through the pine. And how you better wait as my winter riding begins. The valley cloud is laying low like all the winters that I know. Out here on the western side, that rocky great divide. But way up high, the sun will shine. It's colder, but I don't mind. Hey, there's a track on that lost steer. What's he doing way up here? Now it's time to ride from the mountains down through the pine. And how you better wait as my winter riding begins. There's wolves up here that sit and wait. The tracks don't seem to lead nowhere. I wish that steer was standing there. A fire sure would feel good now and warm me up. But there's a cow, oh steaming horse back from the chase, is gonna warm me anyways. Now it's time to ride from the mountains down through the pine. So how you better wind as my winter riding begins. How you better wind as my winter riding begins.
That's nice, Ryan. Winter Riding Begins from your Keeper of the West CD. We saw Stan Jacobs inducted into the BC Cowboy Hall of Fame, and you probably rode with Stan a fair bit.
Yeah, I sure did.
Any
yeah.
stories about Stan?
Well, it was sure great to see him inducted into this, and I like the tradition here at Kamloops, how they do honor those guys that have done so much. And yeah, Stan has mentored a lot of young fellows, like you said, and myself included, and it's great to see that continuing. Yeah.
I know Tim O'Byrne's got a pile of stories about Stan.
Yeah.
He even put some of them in his book.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
I understand Stan doesn't really relish running machinery or running a baler or a swather or something like that. He'd much rather be horseback than on a tractor.
Yeah, I think he's right in the position he'd like to be, and pretty much like most of the guys working there. Yeah.
Actually, I only rode with him one time. Trevor Tebow called one December day. Well, this is quite a long time ago now. I don't think you were there at that time. You were probably, maybe you were at the gang ranch. And anyway, they're moving all the replacement heifers from Chaperon to English Bridge. And Trevor said, you might really enjoy coming along on this ride. It'll take 2 days.
Right.
And I did, and Stan rode with us on the second day. And, that was cowboy heaven for me.
Oh, man.
And I rode with Jake Cootley and a bunch of guys like that. And I rode two of Cody Smith's horses, too. Cody was away somewhere.
Oh, wow.
And that was pretty nice. Yeah.
One thing, too, I thought highly of Stan when I couldn't wait to go out there and work. By the time I was 14, I think I was bugging him. And I actually wrote a letter, trying to see if I could come out in summer employment. And he took the time to write me back. And,
Wow.
and said to come see you when I was out of school. So I thought that was pretty good.
Well, coming up, Baxter Black takes us through a bull chasing episode, and I have a song from one of the most beloved groups in the entire world of Western music. And then it's the Rangeland News, when the Spirit of the West continues right after this.
Howdy, friends. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan, with a little peek at catching the bull by the tail. When you go to B&W Hitch Factory for a visit, you won't need a passport or a Chinese translator. Why? Because their hitches are made right here in the heart of America. Sometimes that gets lost in the whir of our global economy, but lots of American businesses have survived the recession without cheapening their products or outsourcing jobs. When I say Alvin was a cowboy, I mean in the most basic sense. With a horse and a rope, a box of matches and a cinch ring, a pocket knife and a pig and string, he could do the job. Well, Dick ran some cows on some pretty rough country in southern Arizona, and every year he'd gather his herd off the galliuros, and every year he'd miss some. So after shipping in the fall, he and Alvin would ride back to the mountains to gather the cutbacks, the strays, and the wild cattle. Up on a high ridge, they spotted a rangy black bull that they'd missed last year as well. He was a renegade. Well, the two men traversed the canyon and started up the ridge. The ground was rocky, festooned with ocotillo, prickly pear, catclaw, greasewood, bunchgrass evergreens, and scrubby cedars. The desert horses picked their way along. Alvin navigated past a 20-foot drop-off. Once he successfully made the crossing, he looked back to see that Dick had dropped behind. Well, Alvin rode on till he reached a tree-covered plateau where the bull waited. While allowing his horse to blow, he shook out his rope, dropped the knot over the horn, and ran a peg and string through his belt. Now, it takes a good horse to do what he had planned, and Alvin was well mounted. They eased into a slow walk at an angle to the bull, who watched them warily. The plan was to get as close as he could before the bull spooked. Well, it didn't take long. The bull broke for the high country, and Alvin kicked into high gear. Now, it is a sweet pleasure to ride a good horse with the skill, the heart, and the nimbleness to chase wild cattle. In less than 60 seconds, Alvin had roped the steer, thrown his trip, knocked the bull down, jumped off, and hog-tied him. As the critter lay there, Alvin built a small fire, threw in his cinch ring running iron. Next came the earmark, castration, and a hand-drawn brand. Satisfied, he released the beast. Later, back down the mountain, Alvin related his accomplishment. "You're kidding," said Dick. "You didn't catch that black bull. You couldn't have. We missed him twice already. I don't believe it." Alvin reached in his pocket, pulled out 2 cojones, each the size of a Bartlett pear, and plopped them in Dick's lap. "Here's your bull," he said. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan, brought to you by B&W Turnover Bowl.
This is cowboy singer, songwriter, and poet Bren Hill. Cowboy poetry is the voice of the working West, as alive today as it has been for over 125 years, telling the stories of real ranch life. Learn more about it and Cowboy Poetry Week at cowboypoetry.com, a project of the Center for Western and Cowboy Poetry.
You know, one of the greatest musical events we have ever attended was the 60th anniversary of the Sons of the Pioneers in Tucson. And now they've been going for 75 years or more with an unbroken chain of performers connecting right back to the origins started by Bob Nolan, Tim Spencer, and Roy Rogers in about 1933. And the present group, under the leadership of trail boss Luther Nally, does a great show. And guess what? They're doing a tour of Western Canada. So if you hurry, you can see them in High River, Alberta, this Sunday, April 3rd. Sherwood Park, Alberta, April 4th and 5th. Lloydminster, April the 6th. Yorkton, Saskatchewan, April the 7th. And you can get all the details at their official website, the sonsofthepioneers.org. Oh, but let me warn you, you might spend several hours reading their history and watching the video clips there. Anyway, here's the group you'll hear on this tour, with a song written by Marty Robbins.
Long ago in old Wyoming lived a maid, fair as the sweetest flower blooming in the shade. She loved a band of bold who roamed the prairie o'er, and every night she'd listen for his call. And far to the west his voice came ringing, riding the water, seeking, singing, "Yo, yip-I-o-li-yip." lonely night she waited all in vain, till winter passed and summer came again. Still every night when the moon came shining, for a song her heart was pining. Helio, yip-I-oli-yay. Helio, yip-I-oli, yip-I-oli-yay. He brings the token of his love. Swift as the wind he goes, high in the hills, you know she's waiting for his Helio, yip-I-oli-yay. Helio, yip-I-oli-yay. One night an angel brought a message from her love, told her he waited in the starry sky above. Softly she closed her eyes and bade the angel go, and then the whole world echoed to his song. For straight down the moonbeam he came riding, down from the sky on a wing horse riding. Helio, yip-I-oli-yay. Helio, yip-I-oli, yip-I-oli-yay. He brings the token of his love. Swift as the wind he goes, high in the hills, you know she's waiting for his Helio, yip-I-oli-yay. Helio, yip-I-oli-yay. Helio, yip-I-oli-yay.
Now the news of the rangeland, a roundup of news and coming events from around the West. We'll tell you what's new under the western sky right after this word from the cattlemen of Western Canada.
Ranching is an important part of our community. From farm to fork, it takes a year and a half to bring beef to your table. It all begins with a calving in the spring of the year. After 6 months in their mother's care, calves are weaned and begin a feeding regimen where they are fed both hay and grain. Ranchers are proud to provide wholesome beef for BC families.
Now, the rangeland news. Top of page 1, it says, they keep telling us it's supply and demand that drives the North American cattle market, and the supply is increasing. Here's Gary Crawford with a very interesting report on the latest cattle price outlook.
For 2016,
year over year, we've got about a 3% increase in total meat production,
with an expected increase in beef production of 3.6%. And Agriculture Department Outlook Board Chairman Seth Meyer says for steers, on average, compared to last year, that will naturally bring on
lower prices down from $148.12 a hundredweight to $137.38 a hundredweight. So you're talking down more than $10 year over year on that increase in supply.
Also helping push those cattle prices down is an increase in supply of pork and broilers, record production expected, so a lot of competition in the marketplace, helping to keep the beef cattle prices from falling more than the expected 7% is the expected big increase in beef exports, up over 9% from 2015. Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Washington.
Dan Darling is the new president of the Canadian Cattlemen's Association, and he grows corn, soybean, and wheat for grain, as well as forage to feed their 250 limousine-based cow herd, and they background their calves to about 900 pounds. He takes over from Dave Silverson, who has had a busy couple of years. And Dave, I guess, will get back to the ranch west of Camrose, Alberta, where they run an 800-cow operation with a couple thousand acres of cropland, and they have grazing land in the Athabasca area. And they've also relied on community pastures to accommodate the growth of the herd through the years. Well done, Dave. Al Dunning and the late Expensive Hobby were inducted into the Arizona Quarter Horse Association's Hall of Fame in February for their individual and collective accomplishments in the quarter horse industry. That beautiful buckskin gelding was on the cover of Al's famous Western Horseman book on reining. And citizens of this city in Canada have been ordered to first register their wood-burning stoves and then ultimately get rid of them within 3 years unless they meet very rigid air quality standards. The deadline to register wood-burning stoves and fireplaces in that city was December 22, 2015, and the new emissions guidelines or regulations will be implemented in 2018, and that city, by the way, is Montreal. There was a deeply moving event at the recently concluded Kamloops Cowboy Festival this year. The Kamloops Horse Barn has been a great supporter of the event for years, and last year Tom Good from the Horse Barn came up with a great idea, what he called the Keeper of the West Award. a beautiful silver buckle with gems and an engraving to be awarded to the creator of the best new original song or poem introduced at the festival. And the winner was a great poem written by Brian Salmond. And when we presented Brian with that buckle, he thanked everyone, and then he called up Curtis Anderson from the audience. As most of you know, Curtis is the cowboy who has made a remarkable recovery from a severe brain injury that he got in a bull riding wreck at the Ponoka Stampede a few years back. Now, Curtis didn't know why Brian wanted him on stage, but when he got there, Brian presented Curtis with the buckle, and he said, "You deserve it more than I do, pard." Oh, what a great gesture, and there wasn't a dry eye in the house. Well, equine herpes virus 1, or EHV, has been found in a horse near Saskatchewan. The horse is being boarded at a stable which is under voluntary quarantine, and clinicians from the Western College of Veterinary Medicine at the University of Saskatchewan are monitoring the situation. And if you haven't heard, Nick Dowers was the 2016 Road to the Horse colt starting champion, beating out Richard Winters and Clinton Anderson. And we'll be heading for the Red Deer main event running April 21st to 24th at the Westerner, where you get to see 4 good hands in the Trainers' Challenge: Doug Mills, Scott Purdom, Steve Rother, and Patrick King. And I am again looking forward to being behind the mic for this one. We don't always have time to do sports reports here on the Rangeland News, but this is one item that I thought we'd like to share with you. Let's go right to our phone message machine, and the first voice you hear is our son, Spencer.
Hey, Jet, tell Grandma and Grandpa what you did today.
I made a hat trick in hockey.
Your first one?
Yeah. My first.
Jet got his first hat trick today and got the MVP of the game. Woohoo! I'll call yourself.
The next horse sale at the Innisfail Auction Market is Saturday, April 16th. Tack starts selling at 9 and the horses start at noon. Regular cattle sales every Wednesday, and the next pre-sort sale is Monday, April 4th. You can get all the information at InnisfailAuctionMarket.com. And that takes us down to the final item. You remember the good old days? Remember being in the kitchen and your mom was whipping up the icing to put on a cake that she'd just baked? And remember, good mums let you lick the beaters. And great mums turned off the Mixmaster first. And that's the Rangeland News. Coming up on the horse training file, a horse that had been really nice to ride has developed an annoying problem. And I think I know what's the cause. You'll hear another song and a story from Ryan Fritz when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. We'll look at a problem that's developed in what was a pretty nice horse to ride and try and find the solution, coming right up on the horse training file. First, though, for those of you who've been asking about the next Spirit of the West cruise, I'm happy to tell you that it will take place in June of 2017, and the whole gang will be going
way up north to Alaska, way up north to Alaska, north to Alaska, we go north for Russia's home. North to Alaska, we go north for Russia's home.
That's right. My wife Billy and I will be hosting a great group of Spirit of the Westers aboard the beautiful Holland America ship, the Noordam, and we'll sail out of the spectacular Vancouver Harbor, visiting Ketchikan, Juneau, Skagway, Glacier Bay, and then we'll have 2 spectacular days of sightseeing in Denali National Park. Then we'll board the magnificent McKinley Railroad with their sightseeing dome cars and hopefully have a good look at North America's highest peak, Mount McKinley. And then it's on to Anchorage. We'll have our Western music concerts, sing-alongs, great food, and it's a trip that's been on the bucket list of a lot of folks for a long time. And this is important. You can save over $200 a person if you book before the 1st of May 2016 this year. Hey, that's a $400 savings per couple. And the whole package includes return airfare from Calgary, Edmonton, and Vancouver, and includes ground transfers in Vancouver and Anchorage, plus all of our Spirit of the West group gatherings, all port and government taxes, all onboard meals, entertainment, and room service, and a special group reception, lots of networking opportunities, our special Spirit of the West gifts, the highly coveted Spirit of the West t-shirt, and a special Spirit of the West tour just for our group in Juneau. Now here's something else. If you like traveling by rail, we have an optional Rocky Mountaineer rail package to travel from Calgary to Vancouver, available on request. Our entire schedule with prices and everything else is available on the cruise page at our website, hugh-mclennan.com. And you can get all the information at this toll-free number, 1-800-530-0131. And just hold the phones. I just heard from our cruise director, Jim Bell, with this news. If you book for our 2017 Alaska cruise before April 15th, 2016, and that's just in a couple of weeks, if you put your deposit in before that, you will only have to put down 50% of the usual deposit, and you'll receive between $50 and $100 in shipboard spending credits. And that number again is 1-800-530-0131. Now here's this week's horse training file. I have a 8-year-old paint that has been ridden fine until recently. I have no trouble bridling and saddling him, but once I start riding, he will throw his head wildly, tugging at the reins, and will not go where I want him to. This never used to be an issue. Now it seems that I almost have no control. I'm using a curb bit. I have not changed this bit since I got him at 5 years old. Okay. Now, my first guess is that this is more than likely a dental problem. Unlike our teeth, a horse's teeth continue to erupt throughout his life. This continual eruption helps to compensate for the wear caused by frequent grazing, and when the teeth are not worn down evenly, problems can arise. Horses require regular dental care and preventative treatment throughout their lives, and a horse with a dental problem might be reluctant to take the bit. He might shake his head when he's being ridden or resist training due to discomfort and maybe even abrasions inside the mouth. Doesn't this sound like your guy? Equine dental practitioners tell us that horses grazing freely on pasture usually require yearly preventative care. Horses that are kept in a stall and fed hay and grain usually require at least twice a year oral examinations and preventative care. And this care usually involves what we call floating, and in some cases it can make a big difference in how they respond to the bit in just a few days. It can cost around, I think the last time we had it done it was around $200, but over a period of time you'll save that because the horse will not waste as much feed and his digestion will be a lot better. So these symptoms really sound like a classic case of the teeth growing and erupting, and some regular dental work I would bet, solve it fairly quickly. Something else that we find our horses do really well on is that daily feeding of Hoffman's Horse Ration. And you can find out more at hoffmanshorseration.com. And that's the horse training file. These horses are headed to the 3rd annual Top Gun Horse Sale, the largest selection of broke horses offered for sale in Western Canada. Preview April 16th at 5 p.m. Sale starts April 17th at High Noon Calnash Event Center, Ponoka, Alberta. Riding, roping, ranch, trail, barrel racing, team sorting, kids, horses, broke teams, young stock, and much more. Rain or shine, everything is inside. For more information, see TopGunHorseSales.com or call Jordan, 403-783-0246. The inspiration for the songs Ryan Fritz writes comes from his many years spent as a working cowboy, from the remote ranges of the famous Gang Ranch to the rolling hills of the Nicola Valley, and now he runs a good operation in Saskatchewan with his family. And this song was inspired by a horseback adventure. He'll have the story behind the song after you hear about the Buckaroo Rodeo.
Saddle, the wind's in your face. You're looking for cattle, but they're hiding in some place. The ground is squishing freely between your horse's feet. An early morning circle, now who'd rather be asleep? lame bull that needs your healing touch. Cinch up that pony and find out if he's broke. Build up to the lame bull, stop him with your rope. Well, it's a buckaroo's rodeo, just a cowboy's horse and a rope. He'll do whatever it takes to get the job done on his own. That's Buckaroo's rodeo. You've got colts to ride. Start him in the round pen and then take him outside. Some will get to running and some don't want to move. You grab at your slicker and watch him come unglued. Well, it's a buckaroo's rodeo, just a cowboy's horse and a rope. He'll do whatever it takes to get the job done on his own. That's Buckaroo's rodeo. Buckaroo's rodeo, whoa, whoa, yeah. Buckaroo's rodeo, whoa, whoa, yippee-ki-yay.
Yeah, great song again, Ryan, and there's got to be a story behind that one.
Buckaroo's rodeo, that was I wrote in camp one morning. We've had some pretty wet years out in Saskatchewan there, and the one morning there I went and saddled my horse, and then the hitching rail's right in front of the kitchen window, and I'm eating my breakfast watching this colt humped up there and just not in a big hurry to get out and go checking cattle. But
that's the one you're going to ride.
Yeah. So anyways, I thought, well, it wouldn't hurt to have one more cup of coffee. And I went back to the little spot there where I'd sit and write songs and play before I'd go to work in the morning. And I remember when I first went to camp in the spring, and I just took the one colt, and Lane said, well, what are you going to have to do if you got to doctor something? I said, well, I guess we'll get her done. It might be a Buckaroo's rodeo, but we'll get her done. And that's how that came about. And I wrote that song that morning before I went out and got drenched in the rain again.
And did he buck when you?
Yeah.
He did. But you rode him?
Oh yeah. That was. I don't want to tell it. Well, everyone packs a phone now. It's pretty much a common thing. And a friend of mine called, and the worst is getting out of camp. There's generally lots of gates. And once you can get through those gates and get out to the pasture, things are all right. Well, I made it through these gates, and everything was fine, and the old cell phone rings.
Oh.
So I'm talking to a friend of mine that's wondering about coming down to give me a hand there. And I said, hang on a second. This phone went flying. No. And I went for a tour there and managed to stick it out, and then I had to find this phone. This is maybe 5 or 10 minutes had gone by, and I figured, well, I'll have to try to call him back. And here he's waited on the line the whole time because he wanted to make sure I was all right.
Yeah.
But, so that was a Buckaroo's rodeo there.
Wow. Congratulations on Keeper of the West. That's got to be a candidate for Album of the Year, I think.
Well, thank you very much. And we sure enjoy your show and all the work that you do. And you definitely are a Keeper of the West, too.
Thanks, Ryan. We'll look at another old Western classic song, and I'll bring you the story behind it, and then it's the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. Time for another classic song of the West, and this one was written and recorded in 1935 by Ruby Blevins. And you might not recognize that name, but she was best known by her stage name, Patsy Montana. This song was the first country song by a female artist to sell more than 1 million copies. Patsy wrote it in 1934 when she was really missing her boyfriend who was working on a remote ranch. The song was inspired by Stuart Hamblin's Texas Plains, and we featured that one here a few weeks ago, and that's why in some places Hamblin is credited as a co-writer. And the members of the Western Writers of America chose it as one of the top 100 Western songs of all time in 2012. It's been recorded by, among others, Rosalie Allen in 1940, Patti Page as a single, Susie Boggess, and the Dixie Chicks, Lynn Anderson, Leanne Rimes, Nickel Creek, and the version by Susie Boggess actually peaked at number 77 on the Hot Country Songs chart in 1988. Patsy Montana was a great lady, and we got to know her at some of the Western Music Association festivals in the mid-90s. I well remember Liz Masterson joining her on stage to do this song with her, and after Liz just nailed the chorus and the yodel, Patsy stopped singing and looked at Liz and said, "Well, y'all didn't have to sing it so good." So here's my favorite version of I Wanna Be a Cowboy Sweetheart, and it's by Alberta's Carleen Friesen.
I wanna be a cowboy sweetheart. I wanna learn to rope and ride. I wanna ride on the plains and the desert, out west of the Great Divide. I wanna hear the coyotes howling as the sun sets in the west. I wanna be a cowboy sweetheart, the life I love the best. Adio-le-dio, adio-le-dio, la-di-o-lo-di-o-le-di. Adio-le-dio, adio-le-dio, la-di-di-o-lo-di-ti. I wanna ride old paint, going on the run. I wanna feel the wind in my face. 1,000 miles from all those city lights, going at a cowhand's pace. I wanna pillow my head near the sleeping herd while the moon shines down from above. I wanna strum my guitar, you're the loaded tear. Oh, that's the life I love. I wanna be a cowboy sweetheart. I wanna learn to rope and ride. I wanna ride on the plains and the desert, out west of the Great Divide. I wanna hear the coyotes howling as the sun sets in the west. I wanna be a cowboy sweetheart, the life I love the best.
Carleen Friesen, and that lady is one amazing entertainer, as well as being a great vocalist, singer with charisma on stage. She is an amazing fiddle player as well. I remember my brother Jim and I did a show with her, along with the Thompson Valley Community Orchestra a few years back, and boy, she just blew everybody away. Well, it's time for the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight, and I'm sitting here in my studio at the McLennan Ranch World Broadcast Center looking out the window at the rolling pine-covered hills, and through that gate, there's a trail I love to ride. And as soon as I get this all wrapped up, I'll be throwing a saddle on good little Stanley. I think I'll rig him out with a nice Bozell and head right out the gate and head up that trail, because that's just about what I need. And that's what this piece of cowboy poetry from Les Frick is all about.
Decided to break from ranch chores this afternoon. Needed me a change of scenery. Wrenching for 3 days seems all I've been doing, and I feel like roadkill on the freeway. Nothing's been right, and I'm losing my focus of things in life that matter. Not hard, what with the radio belting out speeches from political leeches with endless chatter. Listen to me complaining. Like I forgot what post I'm tied to. The Lord knows those who are His, and He always pulls me through. Guess I need to rearrange my world, get it back in line with His point of view. So I saddled up old Buck, tied him to the trailer, went in and told the missus where I was off to, and that I'd had it with that bailer. She's an understanding woman, not the worrying kind. She never known me to miss one of her meals, so she knew I'd be back by supper time. With a foot in the stirrup and a leg o'er the saddle, like a soldier in a war, I feel fatigued from doing battle. With the fall of hooves, I breathe a sigh as we glide, just me and my cayuse, a-headin' for the divide. Buck steps to a high lope, and in my mind's eye, I'm already there. I feel my heart lighten as I leave behind anxiety and care. Time passes, and we reach an elpin meadow, so I rein up and step to the ground for a while to spell my faithful fellow. Realign my saddle, pull the latigo, tighten again the cinch. As I step aboard, I think of Granddad, and I fondly reminisce. Way back there was a time he set an old Heiser cack, whilst it was screwed down many a wild Mustang's back. Daddy said he got it back in '29, just after the crash. Ran into a fella down to his last dime and needed some cash. 2 special men rode hard in that seat to build something that would last. Retired and well-oiled it always will be, the symbol of their legacy, this ranch. What a heritage I've been given, but a man only reaps what he sows. Just then Buck tops the ridge, and I take in all that the view bestows. Wildflowers dot green valleys. Yonder's the rubies, their tops white with snow. As if though the first time, I scarcely believe my eyes. Reminds me of that old Russell Granddad hung in the tack room between his treasured braided rawhide. It's hard to be troubled overlooking this great expanse. It brings comfort to my soul to know that nothing happens just by chance. This fine horse that brought me to this place, he's made just for me, to partner with and dance a dance across this grassy sea. Truth is, I didn't come here for just the view. Came to do what Granddad did when he felt used up and almost through. I came here to reflect and remember what's most important in life and count my many blessings in exchange for all this strife. And to thank my God who created it all and for the great sacrifice He made. On His mighty name day or night I can call, because in His great book is written my name.
Have you ever heard the sound of hoofbeats in the dirt? Have you ever listened to a cowboy sing at work? Have you ever heard the sounds of a gathering fall? Oh, that lonesome coyote call. Have you ever watched the sunrise while sitting in a saddle, or look down from a hilltop at a valley full of cattle? Have you ever seen the sight of an eagle as he flies in that big wide open sky?
Some things in this old world just don't have a price. A lot of folks are walking around unhappy with their life. But I know it's the simple things that God has made for me. So cowboys, but I'll be. I've rode the Rocky Mountains, Lord, they almost touch the sky. I've heard the bull elk bugle and the aspens up on high. I lay down on my bedroll beneath the stars above, and I thank God for the life I love. Some things in this old world just don't have a price. A lot of folks are walking around unhappy with their lives. But I know it's the simple things that God has made for me. So cowboys, but I'll be. I know it's the simple things that God has made for me. So cowboys, but I'll be.
Well, thank you so much for making the ride this week. Boy, I hope you can join us right here next week at the same time. And thanks again to our great multi-talented support crew, Mark and Kathy McMillan. And congratulations, guys, on another great Kamloops Cowboy Festival. It just wouldn't happen without them. You can find out all about Meadow Springs Guest Ranch, their fine place in BC's Caribou Country, at meadowsprings.com. Great reading in the latest issue of Alberta Beef Magazine, too. You can subscribe online at albertabeef.ca or call 403-250-1090. Bonnie Renica had a great story looking back at the year in review for the cattle industry in the January issue. Oh yeah, and be sure and check out the latest issue of Canadian Cowboy Country Magazine at your newsstand, or subscribe online at cowboycountrymagazine.com, or you can call 1-800-943-7336. Till next week, I'm Hugh McLennan. Hope to see you down the trail somewhere real soon.